What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Growls One Roar podcast. Joe Person of The Athletic has graciously set aside his time to talk a little bit of Panthers today. Appreciate you coming on the show, Joe. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're the gracious one. You were telling me that you're having some AC issues. So if we see the sweat coming down, we might have to get a fan rolling on you, man.
That's right. We do have fans scattered through the house. I am gracious, passing those off to the wife. It was funny. I had Mike K on probably a few weeks ago. I don't think he had an AC issue, but at some point, the room he was recording in, halfway through, he's like, I'm really just sweating because the room's hot. So I think he was in a similar boat.
You must have been asking him some hard questions.
I had to be. So I was trying to keep it easy for you.
He could not handle the heat in the kitchen, man. I can't wait to give Mike a hard time about it.
That's it. You'll have to ask him why he was sweating with the podcast. But man, I seriously appreciate your work. I follow you on X. I've been a big fan of everything you put out. I mean, going back to last season, which we know was what it was, the work that y'all did, the article that you put out, I mean, multiple articles, but the Hunger Games, man, that thing was going around. And I think not just Panthers fans, but around the NFL. So I just say I appreciate it. Appreciate the work that you put in and, everything that you have going out there. But I thought we could start high level. We are going to keep it pretty short today and just maybe get your thoughts. There's a lot that's happened in the front office, a lot that's happened in the offseason, looking at the offensive line, wide receiver, defensive side of the ball. Maybe get your general thoughts on, what the Panthers did this year and maybe what you think about going into training camp.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a lot to unpack for sure. And I appreciate the kind words. That was unfortunately, fortunately, I guess for those of us in the news business, unfortunately for folks who are in the football business, when things go really bad in an NFL building, that's when you kind of hear some of these stories that my colleague Diana Rossini and I were able to chronicle in The Athletic, the Hunger Games story you referenced. So, but one of these years it'd be good to cover a winning team.
That's right.
It's been a while. It's been since 2017. And I don't think this year's the year, honestly. Picking up on the vibe around the building and even what Dave Canales and Dan Morgan have said publicly, you can tell that they're kind of tamping down expectations. They don't want to put too much pressure on themselves, but really Bryce Young. You just get the feeling that Dave Tepper gave Canales a long contract. I'm sure Morgan's is in that same ballpark. And I think they just don't. They want to see progress this year. I think it's the best way to put it. That they want to be competitive. And as you know, for much of last year, they were non-competitive, right up to week 17 and week 18 when they got shut out back-to-back weeks to kind of put a lid on what had been a pretty bad season. So, this year to me is what I just said. I think it's important to be competitive, and that doesn't mean you're winning 10 or 11 games, but it means hopefully you're in most games and you're finding a way to maybe win a handful of them, 5 or 6. I don't know what the number is, but more than any of that, as you know, this year is about Bryce Young, and they have got to get to the end of the season and feel like, okay, we did get our guy. This is our dude that we, and last year, we don't have to go over all that again. I mean, the lack of weapons, the lack of pass protection, but it's better this year. I mean, especially offensive line should be much improved. The weapons, we'll see. But, at some point when you're the first overall pick, you got to make plays and rise above some of this stuff. And I think that's what the Panthers need to see this year out of Bryce Young.
I agree with you. It's been really hard for me, but as I talk to you and like I said, other folks, they're keeping me grounded with my expectations. So I'm a little more realistic. And to your point, not thinking about 8, 9, 10 wins. Like, sure, if we got there, that'd be great. But I think being competitive, So the other thing that's like on my mind, like to your point, Bryce is set up for success this year, or should be better positioned than last year. Do you feel like it's make or break for him this year? I know you just kind of talked about like the end of the year. We want to know that he's the quarterback for the Panthers, at least the Panthers do. Do you feel like internally that people are like, this is the year we got to figure out if he's the future of the franchise, or there's a little more time?
I mean, it's the not for long league, so I don't know. I mean, it'd be different if it were a situation like in Green Bay where Jordan Love got to sit and basically be an apprentice behind Aaron Rodgers, much like Rodgers did behind Brett Favre. But that's not the case here. I mean, Andy Dalton is a totally different situation. So yeah, I hate to call it make or break, but it is a very important year because you want to get I just can't put it any more clearly. Like, you want to get to the end of the season feeling good about the guy you invested so much in, and they love him. Like, they love him as a leader and as a person, as the face of the franchise. But none of that matters nearly as much as winning games and being an elite quarterback. And this is a guy who was exactly those things at the highest level of high school and college football. And the hope and the belief when they took Bryce was that he would do that in the NFL. And so I think a lot of us in the media, frankly, were willing to give him a pass for last year because of the weapons or lack thereof, the 62 sacks. I mean, it would have been hard. I mean, I was talking to somebody today just about the Troy Aikman rookie year where he went 1-15 and was buried under a ton of sacks, and the Cowboys were still kind of getting the pieces around Troy. So there is precedent for this, but there have been other times too when a guy had a bad rookie year and really never had a good year. So it's going to be fascinating to watch this play out and see if Bryce Young can do it.
Yep, it's one of the other things, and it's hard to know how much we online as fans talk about stuff, how much of that makes it into your world, your storylines. One of the things that a lot of fans ask about is Bryce Young as a vocal leader or lack thereof, or at least from afar, where we think of him as a quiet person. Are you reading into that? I mean, you're there, you're around it, or do you think that's really a thing, or are people just blowing it out of proportion?
No, a couple things. He was not that last year. He really wasn't, with the exception maybe of the Bears game in Chicago where he lit into the teammates and Soldier Field locker room. But I will say this in his defense, like, speaking of Andy Dalton, he said to me, I think it was just in the spring, he said, look, it's hard when you are thrown into this starting role. And I think, trying to remember, I think Andy Dalton started as a rookie too. I'm pretty sure of that. Same draft as Cam Newton. But he said, it's hard. Like, you got a million things going on. You're like a 21, 22-year-old kid in a locker room with grown men with families and kids and everything else. And he said, it's tough to just come in and be that leader, that vocal leader right off the jump. And I get where he's coming from. And even Cam, for as big a personality as Cam is, and he always has been, even as a rookie, but he also, if you remember, like, it wasn't until they made a decision to move on from Steve Smith that it really became Cam's locker room, at least on the offensive side of things. Because you had two type A personalities. And I think Cam, I think, was sort of like biting his tongue as a rookie. So I think there's more of that within Bryce Young, but I do respect his authenticity. Like, he is not going to try to become a Cam Newton, for instance. Not his personality, but he can still be a vocal leader and still be true to his personality. And that resonates with guys. Everyone can look through, you hear him guys call it like fake hustle or fake energy. And Bryce Young is not that and never has been.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. I do think, heading into this year, just being that authentic self, hopefully we see him take the next step. That'll do wonders. Confidence on the field, win a few games or be competitive. Kind of get to see him take that next step as a leader. So switching over to defense now, I think I'm aligned with you. I know there's a lot of general concerns, whether we talk about losing Burns, we talk about losing Luvu, Itor Gross-Matos. I think I'm aligned with you when I'm a little concerned about the pass rush and what we have and some question marks there. Is Wonham going to be healthy? Is Clowney going to be the same level? What is the depth like behind them? So curious, what your thoughts are. Do you anticipate, anybody being picked up at some point, or the Panthers looking around? I know we talk cornerback too, but what that edge room is going to look like.
Yeah, I think there's serious cause for concern there. I mean, even before they set foot on the practice field for the first day of training camp, it just seems like a very underwhelming group of, especially on the edge. But in the interior, I mean, that's not Derek Brown's game. Derek Brown's and maybe he becomes that, although it's not really what they need him for. So this is really an outside linebacker issue and concern. And yeah, I mean, DJ Wonnum's, it feels like he's going to end up training camp on the PUP list as he had that setback from his quad surgery. I don't know what anyone, no one, I think, with any degree of certainty can say what they're going to get out of K'Lavon Chaisson. Yeah. Amare Barno's coming back from an ACL. Eku Lyoto was hurt at the end of camp. And, DJ Johnson, frankly, looked more like kind of a edge setter, run game type of edge guy than a pass rusher. So, yeah, I think they've got to keep an eye out for anyone that might pop up on waivers. Something that's worth talking about here too is that the first 3 weeks of the season, including the preseason, they have priority on the waiver wire, and that is that's significant for a team that is rebuilding and that isn't trying to necessarily win now. That they may take a lot of chances on some guys on that waiver wire just because, like I said, no one's jumping them. There's a guy they like that the Chiefs just cut at, a third-year edge. Take him. He's your guy. If you want him, you're getting him. So, I would expect Dan Morgan to be very active on that waiver wire and, at edge in particular, but probably in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of being competitive, waiver wire, so we get the news today that Brandon Ayuk requested a trade. You think the Panthers are even close to being in talks and bringing him over, or is that just a pipe dream and he's going to go somewhere else to be a contender?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure the 49ers are going to trade him. I mean, they seem pretty dug in on hanging on to him and trying to get a deal done or not letting him play on the 5th-year option. So there's that piece of it. Yeah, I was talking to someone about this today. It wouldn't surprise me if Dan Morgan is kicking the tires on this. I mean, he worked right. He was Scott Fitterer's right-hand man the last few years, and that was Fitterer's, famous quote early on in his tenure that we're going to be in on every deal. And for the most part, they were. I mean, it doesn't mean they made offers to every guy, but Fitterer was not afraid to pick up the phone and sort of see where things stood. So I would expect Dan Morgan to at least reach out and see where things are. But yeah, it's tricky because the 49ers are going to want an awful lot in return. And then you've got to, meet his contract demands. So I don't know. Never say never, but it feels like that would be a tough one to pull off.
Yeah, and you mentioned Fitter there too. Sounds like Fitter has landed on his feet with Washington, which is, I mean, he seemed like a good guy from afar, from what
Yeah.
I could tell.
Great dude. Great
Yep.
dude. He's the kind of guy you wish it had worked out better for him
Hmm.
here. And he's a good football guy too. I mean, not just, but he'll get a chance to land on his feet in Washington, and good for him. Like a lot of times, these folks end up, whether you're talking about coaches or administrators, sometimes they have to like sit out a year before they resurface. Like that, we
Yeah.
saw that last year with Ben McAdoo, who is now with the Patriots.
Mhm.
So yeah, good for Fitter, but that Washington organization is getting like Buffalo, where it's just a bunch of former Panther
It
players,
is
coaches, administrators, the whole bit.
wild. It really is. Yeah, man. Well, this has been great. I do want to plug your Panthers fan survey. This is July 16th. I don't know. It's almost 7:30. I'm going to try to get this out tonight. Either way, you'll be able to see the results of the survey, but I don't know if you want to give fans any overview of the survey. And I know you got the past survey results on there as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. It turned out this is like the fifth year we've done it. I hadn't realized it kind of has become a summer tradition for some of these kind of slow weeks or days leading up to right before camp. But yeah, but just tried to do a wide swath of questions, like some of them pretty granular about the roster, but then some bigger picture questions concerning facilities and David Tepper and fans' confidence level in him. So we're going to run that out. I think we're going to, compile the results and then share those with a little write up later this week, and then it's not long, man. Next week we're going to be rolling out our Panther training camp preview stuff, and from that point, it's pretty much full on until the first week of January.
Nonstop. And I know you got in your vacation. I talked to a niche earlier. It says like this is the time because you're going to be full on up until January. It's going to be a busy time, man. But hey,
Yeah,
man.
we
Yeah,
had the family out at Yellowstone for the first
awesome.
time. Well, Yellowstone and Grand Tetons. That was amazing. And I hate to rub it in because you got no AC, but it was no humidity out there. I was like,
Wonderful.
you got off the plane. It's just like, oh my gosh, I need to come out here for like a week every summer. But yeah,
Awesome.
I like the NFL calendar really sets up well for that. And everyone's kind of gone at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why and I know you weren't asking about this, but that whole the NFLPA talking about changing up the offseason. I know most folks you talk to around the league, including but not limited to sports writers, aren't big fans of that because it would just really throw a wrench in. I guess I don't know, take vacation early June or something, but
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like how it's set up now.
Yeah, it seems like a nice goal for y'all. I was actually asking Mike about that as well to get his general thoughts. And yeah, I'm right there with you, man. But I do want to as I'm looking at this article, I just got to randomly ask, do you ever read the comments on your articles?
Sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Which one are you talking? What article?
I'm just laughing at the first comment on the survey here. That's
Remind me what it
interesting.
was.
I don't even know who this is. It says, I believe it'll be a huge upset if Tepper's grade is not an F. Everybody's just kidding.
Yeah, I know that question. My editor helped kind of put that one together, and it felt like a little bit of a loaded question, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, talk. Here's the thing about an owner. Like Tepper has done some good things. Like now, I know the soccer game last week ended with a very ugly scene, but leading up to it, that was a pretty neat day of celebrating soccer. We all kind of joke about him, bringing music to Charlotte, but here, all that stuff's great. But in this town and in this area, I don't think I don't think people care. Like, is our football team winning? If not, then I don't really care that much about the other stuff. Get the football right, and then we'll celebrate, you bringing the Rolling Stones to Bank of America Stadium.
There you go. That's right. Well, hey, man, this has been great. We'll have to do it when I have AC. I know it's about to be a busy time for you. I'll let you plug your stuff, but I will plug you. One, again, follow him on X at Joseph Person. Oh my gosh, my son's name's Pearson. It's like blending those together.
Excellent.
So blended it together. The Athletic, and then also I like to give a shout out to Mac and Bone because I love listening. I live in Wilmington, but I listen to them. Love hearing you on there whenever you make appearances. But I'll let you plug anything else you want to put on here as well.
No, I appreciate it, man. I'll just apropos to nothing except you mentioned Wilmington. So we're big Myers Park High School people in our family.
Nice.
And there is a Myers Park kid coming to Wilmington to pitch for they're the Seahawks, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, UNCW.
Yeah, a kid named Clay Masanis who played.
Awesome.
Anyway, I'm a baseball nerd when I'm not talking and writing about football.
Love it. That's awesome.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on here. We'll have to get connected again.
Get you a tall glass of Kool-Aid and tip your AC repairman.
That's right, man. I appreciate it, Joe.
Take care.
Thanks.